Okay, so I'm recording it.
Oh, you're recording it. Okay, that's fine. Well, let's have it after and I can upload it.
Okay.
Right, shall we get going? Evening all.
Really?
Certain PC Dixon used to say. Welcome to the Leisure and Community Committee meeting of Tuesday the 15th of September. Usual caveats apply regarding the fact that it's being recorded, and be careful to say anything you don't want to be recorded, as it were. Right, that was item 1. Item 2, apologies for absence, please.
Councillor Fox.
Okay, declarations of interest and request for dispensation.
I've not received any.
None. Item number 4, minutes of the last meeting held on the 10th of March, which we did look at the full council at the end of March, which you should have had earlier on in email. This was originally, I presume you've all received those minutes today?
Yep.
Yep, sorry, okay. Can I have a proposer, please?
Yeah, happy to propose, John.
Councillor Roach, seconder. Councillor Brown, I saw hands up. All those in favour, please show. Bruce, you're not on the. Sorry, you're not on the committee. Sorry. So you're a bit dark there, Bruce. So that's why I was trying to see you. Sorry. Okay. Matters arising from those minutes. I think there's only one item, which I don't believe we've had a chance to do anything. Sorry, Tony.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, going back to the minutes, the splash park proposal. Is there any further updates on that? I have been trying to chase Damien for that. I didn't know if Colin has had any further conversation with West Suffolk at all, or in any way it's moved forward.
I contacted Damien a while back, but I haven't heard from Damien on any topic for quite some time, to be perfectly honest.
Okay. Could you chase that at your end as well? I'll chase mine as well, please.
Can I just say, Damien doesn't seem to be answering anything, and he's normally very responsive. But I've been contacting him, and he's not answering his phone. He's not answering his emails. So I don't quite know what's going on there.
He did do a few weeks back when we asked about the circus.
Can't hear you, John.
Sorry. Can't hear me?
Very quiet tonight.
Okay, that's strange.
Unusual.
Everyone else having the same problem? Yes, same problem again?
On the quiet side, yes, John.
This is the problem I had. Any better?
Slightly.
Yeah, I can hear you.
You can hear me okay, yeah?
Yeah, that's better, John. Yeah.
Okay, I'll lean towards you. It might be because I've got a fan ringing in the background as well. Yeah, Damien, I was saying that as he responded 2 or 3 weeks ago to stuff I put out, but I don't know, he might be on holiday for all I know. Okay, item LC 2024E, Colin?
Yeah.
You're muted.
Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, the proposal to look at whether we could do some diversion tactics. Not surprisingly, obviously this all was pre-COVID-19, so everything kind of bit the dust at that point. At the moment, it wouldn't be possible anyway, really.
Okay. Public forum, I'm assuming there's nobody in the public forum.
There's no members of the public joined us, and obviously we're not broadcasting live, unfortunately. So,
No.
but no, if people wanted to join us, they could have done, but nobody has.
Okay, item 7, report from the Arts and Leisure Manager. I see Nick's in the office there. You should have had his report, his latest report. I'll rephrase that. Nick?
Good evening. I hope you can hear me. I haven't used this on this. Can everyone hear me on this camera?
Yep, loud and
Yeah,
clear.
fine.
Cool. Thank you. So there's 2 reports here. The first one is the kind of monthly report of what the ongoing activities, and the second one is regarding the potential to open the Arts Centre with a programme of activity. So I won't go through the first. If we take just the general report first, I won't go through it all, but if I could point out the activities which might need decisions from councillors on. We had the out of doors events, which all went really well. We had nearly 700 people come to those. The best attended was the Dirty Dancing screening, which had just over 140 people at it. And the least number of people that came to anything was 65, which was one of the children's shows. So they went very well. We got excellent feedback from people who came, who said that they were liked the way they were looked after. They were shown to their seats and they were talked to as they went in and out. And there was lots of love for the Arts Centre as well. It was really, really good to hear and to see some familiar faces as well as catch up with the staff. So from that, there is still some of the budget, but the council allocated £15,000 towards summer activities. And what we are looking to do is to have a second week or so of activities, which the first one was Haverhill Arts Centre out of doors, but the next one, the plan is to have it in a large marquee. So it will be Haverhill Arts Centre undercover. Looking at times, you know, it would have been great if we had been having it this weekend because the weather would have been fantastic. But the best use of the marquee space would be October half term, because we can use it during the day for children's shows, possible activities as well, with it within the space. So we're looking to do that. There are 2 possible sites at the moment. We could go back into the Scouts and Guides. But the second possible site where we could go up to is the New Croft. One of the advantages going up there would be that we would not have to hire in toilets, we would not have to hire in a generator, and we could use their quite nice comfy chairs as well. So there's a substantial saving on the costs of having it back at the Scouts and Guides, which is a lovely site. But it could equally be done at the New Croft, comfortably up there. And the other advantage of that would be we could be supporting that organisation, as they have lost a lot of hires over the summer. They haven't been able to use their hire space, so they could run the bar and food potentially as well. So that's a possibility we're investigating. So we'll make the best possible use of the money by finding out which one works best. Obviously the New Croft has a car park as well, so there could be an advantage to have that up there. The types of events that will go on there would be a comedy club again, which worked really well outside, children's events, some music events, and hopefully some theatre too. And we would look also to have one event up there which would be featuring local artists too. Local artists are now allowed to sing with an audience, which we're all very pleased about. That one actually changed. They changed the guidance in that without actually telling anyone, which is what is apt to happen at the moment. While we were in the Scouts and Guides as well, it just occurred that it would be possible in that site to run a smaller version of the Halloween trail. It's ever so popular, and it is possible to do in a socially distanced way. It is possible to do without anybody coming into contact with any of the performers, because generally they run away from them rather than towards them. And learning from what we did in that site, we'd be able to control entrance and exit. And rather than have one great big trail, what we're exploring is having 3 smaller trails over the course of an evening. so that we can control numbers in 3 separate events. We can also answer some of the people who have said, that's a little bit scary for my young one, by having the first trail slightly less scary, so we can down the scare factor on an early one and invite people who might normally not be able to come, because they can bring their youngsters to something which is slightly less on the spooky side. So what that whole thing would do, it would combine the budget left over from the summer program and the Halloween trail into one budget, in order that we can use that money to best effect over that period of time. If I stop on there, and if anybody wants any questions, then I can move on to the other ones later.
Press Brown.
Yeah, cheers, John. Yeah, I noticed in the report it says that a ticket charge will be made for entrance to the trail, and all tickets will be booked in advance. Obviously, I support the tickets, but I don't support people having to pay for them. It's always been a free event. It's one of the jewels in the crown of the town council's events throughout the year. It's encourages everyone from any. It's just a matter of as if you've got no money or you're wealthy, everyone's welcome. So I've just got concerns around charging tickets for that.
So if I explain the rationale behind that, is generally we have buckets at the end of it where we collect cash. We're trying to keep away from cash as much as we can.
Yeah.
We would, at any point, we were going to be trialing having a minimum donation asked for as part of what we do. And I purposely haven't put a cost on it because that was to come to council tonight. But what we do find is when we're selling tickets in advance to something which haven't been charged for, if the weather's not great, then people don't come along to it. If they have spent a small amount of money on it, then there is more an investment on somebody turning up to something. And as we won't be able to, we'll only be able to cater for probably 1,500 people, and we normally have 3.5. It's possible that there might be a large number of people not turn up to it, whereas we would have a longer amount of people, a lot more people wanting to come. So in terms of the fee, it was never envisaged that it was going to be a large fee. It could be £1 or £2, which wouldn't be much more than we might expect in terms of a donation towards it anyway. It does help that commit to that, and that's for us to track people as they come in and out by selling them a ticket. We would have to sell tickets in advance.
Councillor David Smith.
If I remember correctly, when you buy tickets online, they give you the option of making a donation. So would it be possible to do, say, free tickets or tickets for a nominal fee of say a penny or something like that, and make a suggested donation that way? Then you would still have the ticket sales and track them that way, but it would still, to all intents and purposes, be a free event.
It is possible to do that. The donation system at the moment sets that up to put that money back into the arts centre, because it goes direct towards the community trust. If we do ask for a small donation towards that event, then we are increasing the money available for that event as well. So we're making it more viable. What we found with the previous events that we held, people said, the ones we held, we charged £2.50 for. I actually had someone giving me a 20 quid note at it by saying, this is far too cheap. You should be charging. People are liking the fact that they are supporting the arts centre at the moment. But all things are open to it. We did sell 99% of our tickets in advance with print at home. And we had a small window where people could ring up and book a ticket if they didn't have print at home.
Councillor Marks.
Yes, I absolutely support what Nick says, because there's huge evidence in events that I've been involved with over at Newmarket that if you don't charge anything, people say, well, we might go. So they book the tickets. I mean, the Ideal Home Exhibition's a great way of looking at it, because I often book tickets for that and then I don't go, and I don't pay for them. The very fact, I think Nick's point, that you get a greater commitment from people if a nominal charge or nominal fee has been made, and I think he's not talking about huge sums of money here. And I'm sure that if we had groups of people, and we often know groups of people who are disadvantaged, and through our locality money, we could probably support a group of people who wanted to come by actually offering them tickets for that particular group, which we have done in the past. But I absolutely support it. When we're limiting the amount of people that we can get through an event, we need to make sure that the people who can't go don't feel disenfranchised if their mate says, well, I got a ticket and I didn't bother to go. Yeah, it's pretty tough. So I fully support Nick's proposal.
Okay, the only thing I was going to mention was up at the New Croft, I'd be very concerned about the parking situation up there. Tony will tell you that we spend an enormous amount of time trying to stop people parking on the grass verges, particularly when it comes towards winter time. So there is only limited parking up there. There's not a lot of parking. So I'd be tempted, I would actually possibly more support the Scout Ground, because they can park in the car park at the Arts Centre or Jubilee Walk or wherever. Thanks.
So, John, I have had a word with Peter Betts up there. During the half term, there wouldn't be any other uses of the space, because the predominant use in the evenings are the youngsters' coaching sessions, and they don't take place in half term. And the marquee that we are looking at is only going to be holding 100 to 120, which is probably, without the people walking, 30 cars or so, and that car park does have that capacity. So we have thought of that as part of what can happen. It would be purely the fact that there would be more than £1,000 more to put into the programme if we put it in a place that already had loos and electricity.
Yeah, I understand that, Nick. It's just that from experience, what is promised and what actually happens are two completely different things. Councillor Furman first, I thought, then Councillor Roach.
Hi, John. New Croft has got to be the ideal place to have the event for Nick. I've been up there the last 2 or 3, 4 weeks with events up there. As you say, you've got the toilets, which be able to keep the cost out, and you've got the bar in there for them that give them a bit of support. And the car park is a fair size. I mean, and as you say, it's half term, there'll be limited people using the facilities in any case. So that's got to be a no-brainer. I mean, it's a lovely facility, ideal. You've got solid ground as well to put the marquee up. Plus, you've got parapet covering beside it. So, from experience, the last 4 or 5 weeks, been doing events like with the kitchen disco. I think it'd be the ideal place to have one.
Councillor Roach?
Yeah, I quite like the idea of using New Croft. I think it's quite nice if we share it around the town a bit. If we can't use the Arts Centre, then we supported the Scouts a bit. Let's support New Croft and then move it around a bit. So I think on this one, give it a try. If it doesn't work, and John's view of it could be difficult up there with the verges, then we know but we can perhaps marshal that. But they're not going to be huge events, are they? It's not. It's not the same attendance as when Rovers get on Saturday and they park everywhere. So I think let's give it a try.
Do you want to carry on, Nick?
Yeah, it's just whether there's a decision to be made on whether councils are going to vote on whether the event should be free or
sorry, Laura, sorry.
I wonder if we could meet somewhere in the middle of the two. So, Nick had suggested £1 or £2. David suggested, a penny. What about sort of saying 50p, which shouldn't be prohibitive to anyone, but at least it's, it's a little more than a penny, and obviously still asking for a donation to, make it more, but that would be kind of in between.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah.
Sorry, Councillor Lismith, then Paul again.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that actually. Yeah, perhaps not a penny if it didn't work well on the system, although I suppose any amount could work on the system. But 50p I think wouldn't be too onerous for anybody. So I would agree with that with Laura.
Councillor Furman?
I think in the current situation, the climate, you'd have no problem people turning up. Oh my God, they're gagging to get out. But what, I mean, is it the reason why you can't collect cash or donate? It's just because of COVID? Is that the reason why people won't do a cash collection in the buckets? Is that the reason why?
It's also just the fact we need to collect the information about who's attending, and the best
I understand that, yeah.
is to be able to sell a
Yeah, I
ticket.
understand that. I understand, but sure they could book a ticket online. They've got a free ticket. I mean, you could have a card machine or cash at the entrance and do donations still. Could it not be possibly done or not?
Well, you could do donations in buckets. I have no, you know.
Yeah, I mean, cash it's been proven now. You can't catch off cash.
But that still leaves us with the fact that people who don't pay often don't turn up.
Oh no, okay. I think yeah.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Assuming that there was a minimum charge for the tickets, whether it's 50p or whatever, then we shouldn't be dissuading people from those, as you said, Nick. Those people who want to give you 20 quid on the night. We shouldn't be dissuading those. Councillor Mason first, and then Laura afterwards.
Yeah, I think 50p is selling it cheap. I think the event has a brilliant reputation within the town, and I think you will still have more numbers than you would be comfortable with if you were to charge £1, just £1 a ticket. I mean, you may not think there's much in it, but it would double your revenue, and I think the reputation. I mean, it's an excellent night. It's hugely popular. Correctly sold, I think £1 would still be excellent value.
Yeah, Laura, then Colin afterwards.
Just regarding the whole collecting money on the night thing, the problem with that, with having collection buckets, is whether or not you can catch COVID from the money, you're having whatever volunteers you're having with those buckets, having to get in pretty close contact with people. And I think it would be a lot better for whoever that person's going to end up being if instead we just take donations online. That's my view. Yeah. I think it's an unnecessary risk.
Colin?
I'm not commenting on the what's the right price to charge or whether we do donations, whatever. So the simple question is, what's the processing charge for a transaction through, I assume, Spectrix? I suspect if we charge 50p, we would actually be making a loss on every single sale. That may be wrong, but there's usually a minimum processing charge.
It's actually, I mean, it's 5% of there's 5% VAT on our ticket, whatever we do. There's to be another 5% goes to Spectrix through it. And then there is a small charge towards the transactions as well. So 50p would barely cover the cost of actually the ticket itself. So.
Okay. Bruce, I don't know if you're. All I can see is a black screen at the moment. I think you are there, but that's better. That's better. Thank you. I didn't know whether you were putting your hand up at all. I couldn't see anything. Okay. Tony.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Sean. Yeah, I know we're in unprecedented times, but if we have got to make a small charge, whether it's 50p or £1, I can understand the rationale behind it now. Nick's explained, why, but I'm extremely worried about setting a precedent. So I think we should publicise the fact that this is a one-off because we're in exceptional times. Also, we obviously appreciate any donations over the whatever the charge is going to be, and yeah, I'll be happy listening to what everyone else has said, and Nick, for a small charge, whether it's 50p or a pound. Yeah, as long as it's a one-off. I'm just proud of all the free events that we do, and I don't want to start down the slippery slope of charging. If we do other stuff, fair enough. But for our core events, they've got to be free. In the future. Thanks.
Before I go on to Dave and the two Davids, in fact, I think the answer is to just ensure that it is advertised as a donation to the event, not actually a price for the ticket. It's a donation to cover incidental costs associated with the event, such as you say, Colin, the Spectric processing charge or whatever it might be, VAT. Sorry, David Smith first, and then David Roach.
Yeah, and they could just clarify again what those charges were, because you're saying 5% VAT or whatever. 5% is nothing. 100% of nothing is nothing. So the only charge is actually the charge that we pay to the company.
Correct, isn't it?
Can you just clarify that for me?
Any ticket that we sell has 5% VAT on it. So any ticket for any kind of entertainment that we sell is VATable. So 5% would go to the government of our income through that ticket sale. And then any ticket that we sell through the box office has a processing charge of approximately 5% as well.
5% of what that's I'm getting at. If it's
a pound, then obviously it's 5p for VAT.
Yeah, but if it's nothing, it's nothing.
Yeah, but
I'm trying to work out. So what is the only fixed cost, other than not a percentage? I mean, is there a fixed fee for any part of that process, other than the 5% VAT, 5% of the ticket price?
Yeah, it's the Spectric's cost. The actual company we use to do the bookings, we have to pay them some money. There's obviously the cost of the tickets themselves, the physical price of that, printing and all that sort of stuff. There is a cost for every ticket, as Nick says, probably fast approaching 50p, and also the processing cost of the debit card.
Yeah, but
if there is if
it's a very small ticket price, it's going to be a small amount of VAT. If it's a large ticket price, it's going to be a large amount of VAT.
Yeah.
So I'm just perhaps I'm being a bit naive here.
Yeah.
David Roach.
Yeah, I think I agree with Tony. It's what the free events are what we do, and it's what makes Haverhill special. But this year is not a normal year. Whatever we do, whatever event we host, we're going to have a record of who's attending. So having a booking system and doing that, we're going to have to do something anyway. So you might as well use the booking fee, charge a nominal amount for the ticket for this year, and just hope that we get the take up. And then next year we'll go back to doing it how we normally do, which is free with donations. But we're in unprecedented times, and we have the obligation to record who's going in and out anyway. So at least this way we know that from the booking system. So I think it covers a lot of the admin of doing it, because otherwise we're going to have to take the names whatever. So there's going to be an admin cost to it, whichever way you do it. So we might as well use the booking system, and it's easy.
Okay, we do about groups of families. You're going to charge a family of 6, let's say £6, or what? And one's if you got
the suggestion that went through council when we set the budget was that we previously used to say donations. And we were going to be saying for all of the free events that we had buckets at, minimum suggested donation £1 per person, was what the suggestion that the council okayed in order to put money back into the events. So it would be very much the same as we were going to do anyway, but we're using it to track.
I'm a bit concerned about why we shouldn't be having kids costs, like £1 for adults, 50p for children, to say. Margaret.
Yes, John, one of the other problems that has occurred recently is because we have got people who are resistant to giving their details, and so they've given false details when they have arrived at events, and it's become quite serious because obviously for the track and trace, if that's necessary. If you have got the online booking system, there is more transparency about who is booking those tickets, and I think we need to be demonstrating we're COVID safe. And certainly I've done quite a lot of work this week with village halls and things on COVID safe, and that's one of the issues that has come up about how people will declare who they are and their telephone number. So I think, you know, to be honest, I think, you know, Nick's obviously thought this through. I think the fact that, you know, they want to do it online so that it is transparent. My only slight concern is I presume that it can be done over the phone, and one is assuming that everybody has a credit card or a debit card to pay with. So we may just need to think about people who perhaps don't have that facility to pay. But to be honest, this is a much safer way of data capture. It's also more transparent about what we will do with that data at the end of the event. That will probably be, I'm sure that Nick's got that. Whereas if we try to capture it in any other way, it starts to become really messy. And then you can't guarantee that people will tell you the truth.
I think Nick will tell you, sorry, I'll come back to you in a minute. I think Nick will tell you this is exactly what happened with the events at the Scout Hut. Everything was, you know, 99% I think was online. Sorry, before Nick comes back, Laura?
I kind of thought everyone was done talking, so I was actually just gonna say that I propose charging £1 per person. That was also, but Nick's got something else to say, so I'll take that thought.
I mean, Councillor Marks's point was about what the GDPR it does, the data. It just goes as part of our normal GDPR. They're like any other ticket buyer, and that's covered by our GDPR policy. Then we don't have any information at the event. We don't have any of that shown in public, which has become a bit of an issue in some places.
Okay. I was going to ask for a seconder. Are you seconding, Joe? Or? So you're
so one of the things I don't think we've spoken about is once it is £1, is it not possible to have a family ticket where you nominate, where you say who, maybe who you've got, who's going along with you, so to try and keep the cost down for if you've got a family of 6, you know, a maximum family ticket price of £4. Just an idea.
It's not that easy to set up on the system, because you have to have a system which will cope with that, and it wouldn't stop anybody. Just somebody could just go along and choose how many free ones they wanted without having a complicated system of ticket prices living at the back of it. The simplest way would be to have one cost for everyone if we could.
Laura again, sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say also, I was actually thinking of the exact thing with the family ticket, but the problem then would be that you wouldn't know what your numbers would be, because somebody could book a family ticket, say there were 6 of them, only 4 turn up, and it hasn't cost them anything. So it would actually completely take away from that factor of knowing numbers because people have paid for a ticket.
And knowing the way the spectrum system, as Nick just said, works, it's going to be extremely difficult. You start having family tickets without, and you're trying to do track and trace at the same time. Did you want to say something, Tony? No. Okay, so I've got Margaret. I think you wanted to perhaps second, just for the thing. Okay, right. We've got a proposal to charge £1 a ticket wherever we held the event. Can I have a show of hands, please, for that? Oh, no? Oh, sorry, I couldn't see a hand, sorry. Right, okay, thank you very much. Nick, do you want to carry on with the rest of the report?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, as I say, we're already starting to put together something, waiting for tonight's decision on whether it can go ahead. So we've had a few meetings, exciting meetings with people to try and put this together. There's a lot of really, really pleased street performers out there who are amazed they're getting a gig. It's going to be their first gig since March. So we're pleased about that. Quick about the town centre musicians, which we did, which came through the Safer Spaces group. We had those running over 3 weeks, and we actually raised more than £350 for local charities. So Iona Griffey raised £100 on one day, and we had other people. We have put out a call to do this again. So hopefully we might have some of the same people out and a few new people out to try and carry that on. It was unfortunately I went away on holiday and then had to make a mercy dash, so I couldn't be around. So there is little logistic bits behind it. So thank you to John and Aaron for assisting with that. That was really useful. Christmas lights, the extension to the contract with Blacher, who have provided our lights for the past 5 years, has been extended by 1 year. So we haven't had to re-tender for new lights. That's all sorted. We have located a tree. Last year, Elverton said they could not supply a 30-foot tree. This year, they said they could supply a 30-foot tree, but it would cost £2,250. So we have we've gone with a company who actually bring it from Birmingham, and it's something like £800 cheaper than Elverton were wanting to charge. So it's still a lot of money, but they bought a really, really good tree last year. So we are working with those. The switch on is scheduled for the 21st of November. Sorry, Colin, you.
Hi, Colin.
Sorry, I was just going to say, you and I have discussed the outrageous prices of Christmas trees, and the fact there's a shortage of Christmas trees, and every year we help out by paying the execution costs of having another one chopped down, which by basic knowledge of conservation doesn't help you get taller trees if you keep chopping the tall ones down. We've ordered a tree for this year, which is fine. Is there an art project to be had? You've got 12 months, whatever, for 2021 that we've talked about scrap bottles with lights in and all sorts of different ideas that we actually, I don't know, the councillors might disagree, but I think councillors might be interested in spending that sort of money on, instead of executing a tree which is busy saving our lives, actually spending it on somehow recycling something into a tree we can use year after year after year. Just a thought.
Councillor Liz Smith.
I think that's a brilliant idea, actually. We could get schools involved, couldn't we? And get the kids involved in creating something that could be a piece of art, really, representing the tree. So I think that's a brilliant idea, personally.
The other option is actually grow our own, but that might be another 30 years before we get something available. Councillor Dave Roach.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. It's something different, and we quite like different, don't we? So, and I think it would be good to liaise with the art people that do that in the schools. You could almost, when you've got it, then you could perhaps almost even sponsor bits of it. So, but to have something that we can have year on year, and to do different themes with it as we go forward, I think that's a brilliant idea. And it's a really good green message as well, isn't it? We're not chopping down trees. We're not adding to our use of carbon. So I think, using recycled stuff, really good idea.
I think sorry, before Laura comes on, I think it was 2 years ago the tree was less than 800 quid, if I remember rightly.
Yeah, it wasn't huge. Certainly when we went to Elvedon and picked one, it wasn't that kind of money. But we could talk to some of the engineering firms as well, like Metcraft and whatever, and see if they've got bits of metal or even make a frame that people can add to it. So huge potential for an interesting project. As Colin says, we've got 12 months.
Yeah,
a long 12 months.
Oh, sorry, Laura?
Yeah, I think this is a fantastic idea. I'm totally 100% supportive of it. Brilliant. The only thing that I would say is that I personally would like it if it really looks like a tree, if it's not too stylized, because sometimes when things like this happen, whoever's designing it gets a bit carried away and you end up with something very modern. And I just personally And I think probably a lot of people would agree with me, kind of, that, you know, Christmas is a lot about traditions, and I feel like I'd like it if we could keep an element of, you know,
not too
realism.
not too wacky.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love it. Love the idea.
yeah. We say you just got to be careful, as Laura says, we do not end up as a laughing stock. So, council, we want something that signifies a tree, and most people in the town can get behind. You know, we don't end up with something, as Laura says, really wacky. So, yeah, worth thinking about, definitely.
Yeah. So, Councillor Lucarini.
If I can remember correctly, wasn't it last year or the year before, another town attempted to do this and it went down like a lead balloon?
Yes.
It was a complete disaster, and they ended up having to buy a tree last minute.
Yeah, they did. I think it was somewhere in East Anglia as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it really went. It didn't go down well at all.
Nigel, it looked to me like some sort of gadget with perhaps, you know, a load of washing line type stuff on it.
Yeah, people like a traditional Christmas tree.
We do, but I think if we've got 12 plus months to do it, then we ought to be able to come up with something. Bear in mind, we don't have to even order a real tree until about June, July. So we could be well on our way to deciding whether or not the ideas coming forward are realistic, or are literally, in terms of recycling a pile of rubbish. You know, what we want is something imaginative and good and artistic. And I agree 100% that we don't want something that's either so wacky or so awful that it generates bad publicity. But we seem to be paying more and more money for chopping down a real tree, and you know, we ought to try and find some other solution.
Something that people can't climb up as well. Councillor Davis Smith.
It can be tastefully done. I mean, I don't know what the tree was that Aaron was talking about, but yeah, it might have been a monstrosity. But if we do keep it traditional, I think it's worth investigating. The other alternative is to get twinned with a town in Norway.
Before you come on, Nick, I think Tony's just wants to say something.
Yeah, it may be a little project for Gary to do, to look at the sustainability of a Christmas tree. You know, maybe if you're going to phone around, have a look. There may be sustainable growers that obviously plant 1 or 2 trees for every one that they chop down that isn't very far away. Yeah, maybe worthwhile, you know, a twin track approach. Look at, you know, what we can do as a recycled sort of thing, and also trying to source a sustainable tree locally. Yeah.
Sorry, Margaret Marks. Right.
Yeah, it's a shame really, because actually a lady this year up just off Manor Road, she's just cut down 6 very large conifer trees in her garden. And we might want to talk to some of the tree surgeons, because they're cutting them down in people's gardens all the time. And, you know, people might be sympathetic and say, well, we'll wait, you know, we'll be happy to wait to have it cut down. Because I know this person cut down 6 because Clive got the wood from it. So it's just, and they were really, really tall. So there are quite a lot of tree surgeons. I mean, Ben Pumphrey's a tree surgeon. And he's cutting them down all over sort of Essex as well. So it might be just worth saying, is anybody cutting down a really nice tree that they might be prepared to hang off and let us have it? It's just a free thought, really.
Right.
Nick.
So, I mean, just my thoughts on that. I would think that knowing if we're going to have an artist involved and a metal work company involved, I mean, making a gate recently, 6-foot high gate, was £1,800. So anything, it's about scale. The year that we had a 25-foot Christmas tree, people laughed at it and said it wasn't big enough. So length does matter in this case. So it does, I think it's important that the thing that we create has scale. It's not a climbing frame or a challenge. It's in a public place. If it's going to have glass on it, then that's going to be another thing to think of. So in terms of, you know, creating a health and safety nightmare, it's a great idea as well as a potential arts project too. But yeah, let's have a look to see what we could could come up with, but I would think that you would be looking to invest at least £10,000 in a project to create something like that, because it would have to be stress tested, structure tested. It would have to have, the foundations would have to go down further than a normal tree, I would think. So there's quite a lot to think of, but that's not to say that we couldn't do it. We have got the lights switch on scheduled for the 21st of November, and it's looking around. There's nowhere else. Everywhere else is cancelling their light switch ons because you can't control distancing at an event like that. One thing which I thought of we could consider is trying to encourage people who are putting their lights up at their own house to put them on the same day. So we have a town-wide switch on that day. It is quite early, but we might get a little bit of an uptake on that by saying, well, you can't come out to the town switch on, but how about switching on your lights at home? So Haverhill lights up. If council did like that idea, then we could maybe shift the date back a little bit. But that's just an idea, just to try and get some public engagement and saying, well, you can't do that, but you can do this. But there's a bit of, I don't know what people think of that. I can pursue it a bit and see where we go with it.
There's quite a few lights go on well before the 21st of November anyway.
Yeah, okay. So most of the rest of this is you had before the community garden. We've had workshops. We're working with the designer to come up with some designs for the space. We're talking with the district council about some of the surveys which we need in order to go forward with it as well. And as soon as we've got a design or a couple of designs and a bit more information, then we'll get that round to council, probably in email form for councillors to have a look at and comment on, really. But there are lots of really, really good things came from the publicity surrounding the project too. So it's quite an exciting one.
Before you carry on, Councillor Marks?
Yeah, I just wondered whether extrapolating from Nick's suggestion about the public involvement there, why not have a competition for the best lit up Christmas lights house, which might just encourage people to be a bit more creative this year, and a wee prize of some sort from the council?
Any thought? Any thought, Nick? Or sorry.
So open for councillors, I think.
Okay, Laura?
My first thought against it would be that it's not necessarily that eco-friendly to be encouraging people to cover their houses in lights.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be lights though, does it? It's a Christmas theme, it doesn't have to necessarily be lights. It can be, the most decorative Christmas house.
Being bar humbug, I don't put anything up. Anyway, that's me. Councillor Lucarini?
If we get people to sign up now, I wonder if we could actually create almost a map for people to go around town and see houses that have kind of gone all out.
Yeah.
Idea.
Councillor, did you want to speak, Paul?
Yeah, that lights on. I think it's a great idea, and it's tradition. I like tradition. You walk around some of the estates, they do a fantastic job. I mean, you work around Elmer's Close now. People take their kids around and have a look at it. It's fantastic. I mean, that's a great idea, Great idea. A little competition. Whoever wins it gets a little prize in the council. A bit of morale boost in the community. Come on.
As long as they don't drive around.
John, who said they've got to drive down, John? Be quiet.
I didn't say that, just saying. Okay, sorry, Councillor Brown?
Yeah, I just think it's been such a crap year that if we can have a few lights on houses just to cheer everyone up, I'm all for it. And I do understand the environmental concerns that Laura has, but come on, 1 year has been a rubbish year. Let's just try and brighten things up in Haverhill. Yeah.
So in terms of a competition, the competitions need some sort of criteria. Some people will be able to afford 2 or 3 lights, and some people have already thousands and thousands of lights at home ready to put up. So just in terms of the criteria and the rules of the competition, what it's judged on, that would need some careful thought, and possibly a councillor working party to come up with those criteria maybe. And
that's the marks.
Nick, when they do the shop design in Bury St Edmunds, and it's a very unfortunate thing, they make the Mayor of the Year be the only person to make the decision, which is really miserable. It's very hard, and you obviously have first, second, and third, and it is a very individual thing. But you know, none of us actually ever chose necessarily the one that was the most obviously expensive, because some of them, like the wool shop, what they did, they kind of knitted a nativity thing and put it in the window. Some of them were so creative and different, and so my view would be that, you know, you choose, say, 4 councillors, doesn't matter who, and they all go around, they all score things, and it's the scoring at the end. So it is individual judgment, but I don't think you can really set a firm criteria. And then, you know, maybe each year you just have a different set of people go round, so that you don't get the same house get chosen all the time. But it works really well in Bury. Unfortunately, they do make it, it's the bid who do it in Bury, and they make it one person make that decision, which is very tough. But so you don't really need a very strong criteria on that.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, carry on, Nick.
Artistic license, we've got a lot of people interested in that proposal and contributing towards a Facebook page. A little bit of a setback on maybe on the high street, but we're looking to see where we might get a premises. Hadley has just had its first pop-up exhibition from its creative group, so we're going to find out from them how they access their shop. The Clean Haverhill, Green Haverhill, we're looking to have a meeting of this energy and sustainability group as soon as we can, in order to extend that out to the wider Haverhill community, how we can do that. I think Tony is chair of that, and he'll hopefully call one soon. The community kitchen will be interviewing for the post of the kitchen coordinator within the next couple of weeks, and we'll get back that online. Youth events which we've been holding, they've been fantastically successful and great feedback from people taking part. Michelle Brace got a grant for that from the Arts Council, and they've had some fantastic feedback. So pleased that they've worked. The Gleason Community Centre is due. We're hoping to open that on or around the week beginning the 28th of September. We've had some decoration done. We're just getting the clean up after the decoration sorted, and working with the groups who want to come back in to help them with risk assessments and get all that in place. The Arts Centre here, a little bit sad, but we have tarted it up a bit, painted it up, and we're working on that. The programme is a separate report, and remembrance is covered elsewhere. So unless anybody's got any other questions on that report.
Nothing, Nick, you want to carry on? Sorry, Margaret Mark, sorry.
I'd like to say actually that, considering we are in this terrible position, I think Nick's just done an absolutely amazing job, and I think that should be recorded, that in view of really the difficulties that we've been under, his innovative thinking about doing things is really exemplary. And what I would say though is, when you need help, Nick, I noticed you said you got in a squeeze and John and Aaron helped you out, and I know it's normally John and Aaron, but the reason it's normally John and Aaron is because the rest of us don't know that you need help on something. So if you could sort of, you know, if you do need something, you're planning now for hopefully for the Halloween event, please do, you know, get us in as volunteers, because I'm sure a lot of us would really be happy to be involved, but we just don't know what you want us to do. So if I could just add that in. But thank you very much, Nick. I think you do a great job.
Thank you. The second piece of paper is looking at how to get the Arts Centre back up and running in some way, shape or form. I mean, the background to this is there's not many places are doing this. There is the Seagull in Pakefield in Lowestoft. They're open for once a week. There are some places that are open mostly as cinemas, but cinema uptake has been painful recently, absolutely painful in terms of the main, even the main cinemas, their income streams are very, very small indeed. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't try, and the amount of people we got and in our other events saying we will come back and support you should give us the potential. So the paper that is here is really looking at the different strands of program that we have and identifying those which would work within a socially distanced audience. And it's really a proposal to put together a 3 or 4 night a week events program based in various types of entertainment. It's all going to be quite local, a lot of it, very small scale, but just to get us back up and working again. So that's the main part of those, the report, which goes through all of the different bits and pieces. It does mean, the change, meaning that we can have amateurs performing here, means that we can have our open mic nights back, and we can have small groups performing as part of it. We're unlikely to have anything with more than 3 or 4 on the stage, because that makes it more difficult. So we do need to start simply. It's unlikely we'll be able to get private hires in here as well. We have had requests for it, but it's very much more difficult to control. We have had some art-based groups looking for rehearsal space, which is another thing which we could look at in the short term. And there is the possibility that we could open the upstairs space as a pub. So it's using the bar and using the main hall, because we've got a stage, so we could have a pub with a bit of music. We could even have a pub, if you like. I'm calling it a pub, but a pub cafe or whatever. We could even screen the final of Strictly. It's a great event. People love coming together for Strictly. We could have a night where people can come in and watch Strictly on the big screen. So it would look a bit like that with some cinema. So we've talked to the cinema programmers today, and they would work on a pro rata basis, so we wouldn't have to incur all of our screen booking charges that we would have. So yeah, 3 to 4 times a week. Marketing, ticket sales, we wouldn't be opening the box office. We would let people have an option to phone up if they didn't have internet access, and to collect tickets or have them posted, which we can still do. The event, obviously the staffing would be less. It would require less staffing, but it would be making use of our staff over that period of time. It's less staffing because there's less events going on, but we would add in at least 1 extra member of staff to each event to make sure that we can control the event. And but bearing in mind that there are only ever going to be about 50 people there, so nothing is big scale. One of the things, sorry,
Nick, can I just ask a question on that? If instead of having theatre style upstairs, you have the tables, and I've forgotten what you call it when you do that. Cabaret style. I'm sure you could get more people because the table's quite distant. Have you tried that? You've looked at them?
We've tried that. With the distance that we'd have to maintain, we can, with full tables in there, we can get 110 people in there. So with meter distancing, we would probably be looking around the 50 mark, I think. Okay. So it's not that many more, but it does lend itself better to certain types of events.
Yeah, yeah. And actually you could also do food, which would bring in greater revenue then. So, yep. You know, although you may have fewer people, it gives you greater latitude to actually enhance the experience, does it not? So, yeah, okay. Thank you.
I know Tony wants to talk, but Laura, did you want to talk? I know maybe you're thinking about going, are you?
Yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm just gonna nip off, and I will be back again very shortly.
Okay, that's fine. Let's go. Tony?
Yeah, cheers, John. I don't know. I've really got reservations about this. I'm not sure. Well, I mean, have you done any costings on this and how much potentially? I mean, I can't see you making any money out of it. I know it's not all about money anyway, but you know, I'm all for the outside events, and I really am. But it just worries me around. We've got limited toilet space. Things have got to be cleaned. More often. We've got narrow corridors. There's a whole plethora of things I'm really concerned about. But and the main thing is I don't want to put a lot of money into something that isn't bringing back hardly any return. They're concerns that I've got. But I'd really like to see all the costings.
Yeah, the outlay on the programme is fairly minimal because some of the things won't cost us at all. We would share the income from those.
Yeah.
So there's many of the events that we put on wouldn't have any expenditure on artists, because we would just share the income. Artists are willing to work for less money because there's less potential income. And in terms of cleaning, I would have said what you said, but I've been to pubs recently and I've been out for meals recently, and it's given me confidence to go out. There is just one place to clean. We're not going to have people moving around the building. There is a suggestion here that we would have loos installed at the back of the building.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
So we limit the amount of people. There's only ever a maximum of around 50 people. The events that we hold are not going to be great big long events either. Some of them will be short on the shorter side, so that we don't have people in there for so long. Yeah. So what it does do is it makes use of our staff, it makes use of the space, it gives local people in the main a chance to entertain, but also pays some professional people who are just stuck. There's a lot of professional artists who just have no work at all and haven't worked. The people we had at the outdoor stuff, the majority of those, that was their first gig. That was their first gig since March. So in terms of a cleaning schedule, it is relatively simple because of the way in which we have constructed stuff. The tech crew have got their own COVID safe working practices which they've developed up. For the comedy nights, we have everyone having a separate microphone. We can separate all of that out. And because we're not running so many nights, we can let stuff rest in between as well. So I'm fairly confident that we would have our own clean team, which would be able to keep the place clean while the event is on. And then our cleaners come in and do a COVID safe clean following the event.
So there wouldn't be any more extra demands on the budget. So all this would be funded out of your existing money. And nothing extra would be coming out of reserves or anything like that.
We wouldn't
cover it all. Yeah.
Whereas the normal program would risk money on some events, this would have a very, very low risk factor.
Okay.
Because of the type of program that it would be.
Okay. It's just that we get some really busy nights in there and struggle to break even. This is why or we make a loss on. I'm just concerned that by having just 30 to 50 people in on some events, we're really going to take a hit. But if it's all managed out of the existing budget, and you're happy with the cleaning and everything like that, that's fine. But thanks for the clarification, Nick. Anyway.
What if I just carry on about the loos at the back of the building, the plan would be to actually. It's pretty likely that even if the government changed their ideas in November, that we would not be able to get back to any kind of full program and full capacity until at least April. That's a really likely outcome, I would say. Lots of theatres have just mothballed until April. They're not doing anything until then. So in order to cope with that, the idea of putting loos out the back would be constructing a tunnel that goes out from the back doors, from the bar door and from the back door, a tunnel which goes along the existing walkway, and then putting in a loo block, a long-term hire. There we go. So on that's the back of the Arts Centre. The pink on there is the tunnel that we'd create, which would have a roof on it. The orange is the walkway, and the loo block would be placed just outside. So we'd take some of the fencing down, and there would actually be a gate on the end as well. So we wouldn't need to use the downstairs of the Arts Centre at all. That would be our entrance and our exit, and it would allow people to go to the loo without going outside.
Have you costed that, Nick?
And it's not fully costed yet. I'm still hoping to get the loo costs in, but I would estimate that it would cost around the £10,000 mark in order to make that construction, which would potentially be there for as long as council wanted. If once we got back, we could actually use that section where the loos, which would be fenced off, we could use that as a storage area, and the tunnel itself would be designed so that that could stay in place if we wished it to be. It would be constructed of you know, outdoor ply and roofing material, which would be a metal covered plastic covered metal roofing. So it would be of the substantial nature so that that could actually stay in place even if we went back to normal.
Need planning permission for it?
No, I've checked that with Andrew Sampson at the District Council, and he's of the opinion that we wouldn't need planning permission for it. It's not there as a permanent construction, and the actual section of the Arts Centre that's attached to is not listed, so none of that bit is listed, that bar. So you know, that was a separate add-on.
It's a strange thing to say it's not listed.
Yeah, it's really that part isn't listed. When we looked at getting something on the back and the side previously, they didn't mind really what we put there, because it is at the back and it is at the side, and it's not obscuring part of any of the listing.
Okay. I don't know whether conservation would agree with you on that, Nick, but anyway, we'll see.
Yeah, so I mean the District Council surveyor who we asked was okay with us doing this, and the advantage of this would be is that we wouldn't have the public having to go downstairs. The only members of public who would need to go downstairs would be for the access to the disabled toilet, which we wouldn't be able to install there, but we could do that as other places do. You know, if you go to some other places, you request access to it. It's a bit like having a key to go to a place. So what that would do, it would enable us to have an in and out section, loos upstairs, and to better manage the events on the night. People would go around the back rather than coming in the front.
And what spacing are you allowing on that walkway?
What the advice that we have from environmental health is that when people pass on a walkway, we would be asking people to arrive wearing masks and to be wearing masks in the building at most of the time. So it's no difference to walking down a corridor in a pub or in any other supermarket aisle, because you're not coming into contact for people with any enhanced period of time. That's what I understand. I think that's it really. But what we would look to do is we would put a couple of trial events in October, then have the programme running through November and some of December, not taking in Christmas, or maybe we would be able to have a small Christmas show. Our panto producer does have a show which could fit in here, which is a children's panto variety family show, which we could put in under this, and then take that into the new year if we need to do that too.
I can't say whether anyone wants to know. Any comments, anyone? Your phone, Paul?
What sort of toilets are they, Nick? Are they flushable working toilets, or what sort of toilets are they?
We're getting quotes for two different. There's some luxury ones with nice basins and flushable. They're all flushable, so yeah, they wouldn't be put into the mains. There would be a weekly visit where they'd come and take the waste away.
Got a semi-flow sort of system, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know, getting into the mains wouldn't be impossible from there, but it would be a system which isn't unusual in other terms of temporary loos.
Right.
So we're just getting the costings on the different types of loo, the ones which have basins and the ones which people are becoming just as accepting of, which are ones which have hand sanitizers in, because people are so used to sanitizing their hands now, and that does both jobs really.
I was just saying, I've been out quite a bit lately to pubs and restaurants, and that's boosted my confidence because I don't take my wife out in this situation. But I think you can manage it quite simply, the cleaning process, quite simple. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Smith, did I see you bring that up? Or Tony wanting to know, David, sorry.
Yeah, I guess the majority of the cost is for the toilet block itself. You're talking about a tunnel. What's the sort of construction is the tunnel, and do we really need the tunnel?
The majority of the cost will be for the tunnel itself because of the materials it will be made with. Will need to withstand the weather, and it will also need to look the part really. Having something which is covered in tarpaulins and plastic wouldn't really look the part. We are a venue, and asking people to go outside to the loo in winter, it would just mean that we wouldn't need to do that really. And it would give us an entrance and an exit to that space. So it's not 100% necessary if we felt comfortable with asking people to go in and out to the loo, but the tunnel would enable us to have the doors open for a period of time without opening the doors and getting people to knock on the door to come back in.
Laura?
Yeah, I'm really sorry because I obviously missed a little bit and I've maybe missed something that would have explained this, but I'm slightly, from what I've heard, which I think I missed the very beginning of what you were saying, it seems to me like a big expense for not much benefit that I can really understand. And I may be missing the point slightly. So the idea is that it stops people needing to go downstairs, but why is that a problem?
As soon as we involve the public in another part of our venue, we put ourselves into more cleaning costs, more. It's not such a COVID-safe venue because they've got more potential to spread throughout the venue as they go down the stairs. They put their hands on all of the rails. They go through all of the doors into the loos. It also means that we don't have a duty officer sat downstairs all the time, which is what we do at the moment. We have one member of staff who sits downstairs, literally doing not a lot because there isn't a lot to do. Whereas if we have that member of staff upstairs, they're going to become an active part of the event and make another member of staff towards what we need. So we're keeping the people in a smaller space, so that makes that far more COVID safe. They will only have access to the bar, the main hall and the loo block, which are very, very easy to clean and maintain.
Would it not be probably even less space if you just used the lift and the downstairs toilets and had the rest of it cordoned off?
You could say that. We do have an issue with our loos at the moment, and that's one of the reasons why this is a possibility, is that we are going to have to do some sort of work on our downstairs loos. 2 days after lockdown, tiles started to fall off the loos, and there is an issue there. We've got costs coming in to do a total refurbishment on the loos and potential for costs to do a minor refurbishment on the loos as well. So we don't mind using them at the moment, but they aren't in a state for the public to use at the current time. So it may seem like a cost, but it would be a cost which would be utilised over a number of months. If we put it in October, we would still use this facility right the way through until we start to open up again, and even after that. There'd be nothing to stop us keeping that tunnel there, and it could be of use to us.
Okay, so everyone's moved around a bit now. Sorry, Councillor David Roach.
Yeah, I'm really, really sceptical that you don't need planning for that, Nick, and especially saying you could leave it there permanently. And I'm really sceptical that grade 2 doesn't affect it, because I've not come across many grade 2 listings when it comes to planning that doesn't include the curtilage. So we would have to really check with conservation and planning, and it's no good the surveyor saying it's okay. It would I think you'd have to run it through planning, especially if you think it's going to be there for a certain length of time. So I think to cover us, we'd have to really check that, and conservation. Other than that, I think it's not a bad idea, because our loos are disgusting and we've got to do something with them anyway. So if that's there, then we could crack on with upgrading facilities, and then it's a question of cost really. And does that cost for putting it in, how does that work against putting stuff on? Because it's just, we're not going to cover the cost by being open, are we, in terms of profit from whatever we do put on? It's just a cost that drags the bottom line.
Councillor Joe Mason.
Yeah, just really quickly. Of course, we don't know, we can't predict the future, but there could easily be further restrictions placed upon events, which could mean that the expense would not necessarily be of value at all.
There is one argument that if loos upstairs did work, and we found that loos upstairs was a really, really good thing, that we could look at how much it would be costing to put in loos upstairs. We've been wanting loos upstairs here ever since we moved in. It's a huge problem for us to people keep going downstairs. And yeah, it is possible. I mean, we could just not do anything. We could just stay closed and not do anything. But there is the potential for us to do something safely. And in terms of logistics and operational wise, having a loo block out the back on the same floor as the events would make it a lot easier for us to make the events safe and on those days.
Colin.
I just wanted to make the observation that I really do share councillors' concerns about spending money on things like this tunnel and the toilets and all the rest of it. And we don't know, it's absolutely right, we don't know, that it turns out that we make these arrangements and then the goalposts are moved and it's all wasted. But nobody knows the answer to those questions. I have a concern that the town council has, by necessity, gone into hibernation for the last few months. We've hidden away. The art centre's been closed, the community centre's been closed, the zone has been closed. Our parish handyman has had to shield. We've actually saved a lot of money as a result. Just think that, what are the residents going to think? That we need to try and put on these events, to try and make the arts centre work, to try and make the zone work, so that when people sort of say, well, what was the town council doing, that we didn't just batten down. We don't know that the tunnel may turn out, we build all the tunnel and then there's another lockdown. But if there's another lockdown, then it probably means that the COVID-19 situation is going to stretch even further into the future. This is an assumption that at the moment, if nothing changes, this would be here until next April, and then at least we could say we've tried our very best to provide some form of arts centre and some form of service for the people of Haverhill. Otherwise, I just think, well, we could easily, it's so easy to pack up and hide. I just wonder what people will think of that.
Exactly.
I've got Laura, Aaron, Margaret, Martin, Tony.
I'm still slightly sceptical about if those toilets downstairs are going to need fixing at some point. To me, it seems to make sense to fix the toilets and have a kind of cordoned off area that people, because the upstairs toilets will need cleaning as well, just as the downstairs toilets would. The walkway will need cleaning just as the way down to the toilets would. I can't see much difference. But if we're going ahead and having upstairs toilets, to me, a tunnel is very much an enclosed area where COVID is going to spread. Outdoors is much safer. I understand it could rain on people. I would think it would make a lot more sense to have perhaps a shelter just outside the toilet so that people could queue, not in the building, and not be rained on. But having an entire tunnel to me seems counterproductive with the whole COVID thing. If you're trying to have a safe area, it seems better for that to actually be open to the elements.
We can control the number of people in the tunnel at any one point, and it will be designed so it doesn't have touch points on, because it is just simply a tunnel. It's a wooden tunnel without anything else apart from some lights in there. So yeah, point taken that it could, but we can control the amount of people in the tunnel because we can get people to queue before they get into it and let them out. When we're letting them out, we won't let them all out at once. So there's been very little contact between people coming in and out of that. That would be an observation.
I'm conscious of time. Aaron?
Yeah, I agree with Colin, really. I do think we've got to think about our community offering. I don't think it's right as a town council we kind of start hoarding taxpayers' money. That's no good for the local or wider economy. That's negative. As for the toilets and tunnel idea outside, I think it's a good one. We've also got to think about other groups starting to use the art centre again, as well as maybe it reached the point where even things like the cafe could reopen, and having two distinct areas is probably a good idea.
Margaret Marks?
Yes, I mean, I'm coming at this from a health perspective, and you can live or you can have a life, and we are in this now for the long haul. I think, you know, all the evidence is that this may not be the only virus that we have to learn to live with. And, you know, we take risks every day of the life, every day of our life. We walk out the door, we get in our cars, we walk across the street. This is a controlled risk, and it has to be a controlled risk. And, you know, the COVID was very, very strong. But what we are seeing in our community is an enormous amount of people who are suffering from mental health concerns now and anxiety. They are in lockdown. They've been in lockdown for a really long time. People actually now, I'm seeing more people who are actually more worried now than they were before. And those people are going to become quite ill. So they've got nothing to look forward to. You know, everyone's saying, you know, they can't go to the cinema, they can't go to the theatre, they can't go swimming, they're limited at the sports centre. And so, you know, the fact that we're going to offer people something to look forward to, and it's going to be risk managed, I think is absolutely fantastic. And I think if we keep saying, what if COVID comes back? What if winter's going to be really bad? We know that. We're already planning that in, and we know that winter pressures on hospitals are already bad. COVID's just going to add a massive dimension to that. But, you know, we're alive now. If you're not going to live your life now, then you might just as well live into COVID and die, frankly. So, you know, all credit to you, Nick. Crack on is my view.
Councillor Brown?
Yeah, thanks, John. Yeah, the walkway, I don't know if a compromise would be if we had a covered walkway instead of having an actual tunnel, something with a roof in it, just to let a bit of air in, just an idea as a compromise. And the toilet side of things, I think, you know, if we're going to do this, I think we should do it properly and make sure we have the largest amount that we can afford, and make sure that they're of the highest quality we can afford. Yeah, and I fully understand that we need to have the ones downstairs refurbished. So, I mean, I can see the point of us having some upstairs and keeping everyone upstairs. Yeah, so I think that it'd work quite well. But what I'm saying is that, you know, if we're going to do it, let's do it properly. Let's get, you know, quite a large toilet block so everyone can use them in comfort, and make sure they're good quality ones. Let's not just, you know, do things half-hearted. If we're going to do it, let's do it properly. Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's got to be a sympathetic design to the fact it's a grade 2 listed building by next door. David?
Yeah, just quick. If we're going to do the refurbishment downstairs, then we might as well use this opportunity to shut the ones downstairs, crack on with getting them done, and have this as a temporary. So I'm in favour of it, as long as we have got the right permissions to do it. But we might as well bite the bullet and have the downstairs done. We've talked about it. We may get some really good quotes now with because people may be looking for work that have not had the work in the
Joking, mate. Building games on fire.
So, but yeah, we've got to do something with the toilet facilities anyway. So we might as well crack on and get on with it.
Just one point about Councillor Brands about having the biggest toilets we can. It's actually an advantage to have less, because if you have loads, you have to not have loads. If you have 3 in a row, you can't use the middle one. So it's actually better to have individual ones, because you can clean individual ones a lot easier than you can ones which a lot of people are using at any one time.
Yeah, what I'm saying about is queuing and things like that, you know, that's, yeah.
Yeah, certainly, as I say, we've got 50 people at any one time in the building for quite short events. So hopefully,
I'm conscious we've got still got a big agenda still to get through. We're already an hour and a half in, so can we make these comments quick and don't repeat yourself? Thank you. Margaret Marks first. Sorry, you're muted, Margaret.
If you're sitting in a cubicle and you've got 2 walls either side of you, I'm a bit confused, Nick. I wasn't aware that you could only use. What's the rationale? That doesn't make any sense at all.
yeah, if you have 3, they recommend that you take 1 in use, because you can have people coming out at the same time. It's a funny thing. If you go to quite a lot of places, they're just allowing 1 in, 1 out. So if you have individual loos, then you can only ever have 1 person in there at the same time. So if you have individual ones to people to use, you can never have more than 1 person in there. You can clean in between, or you've got less to clean because you've got less chance of people passing it on, because it's not communal.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
May need to change the layout of them, perhaps. Laura.
Okay, I have to go in a minute. I'm very sorry to say. I've just been sitting here really bothered by what Councillor Marks said previously. I'm aware that this is actually being streamed live on YouTube, and I think we actually have a responsibility to, to the public and to everybody, to not be so callous and blasé about people's lives. I'm sure many of us have vulnerable friends and family, and to say that if we're going to be too cautious, we might as well be dead, I think is a disgusting thing to say, frankly. And I think that actually it's really irresponsible. And I don't think as a councillor you should be saying that kind of thing in front of the public.
Just to clarify, it's not actually being going to YouTube. We've got a technical problem. But Paul Furman.
Good. Well, that's better. But still, I think you should be a bit careful about that kind of thing.
Councillor Furman.
Quick one, John. The old toilets downstairs, I hope they sort out the drainage problem there, because it's always, for many years, when they have a large event or more bodies in the building, they have terrible troubles with the toilets.
That is one of the big costs.
That is one of the biggest problems you ever have, John. That's all. Sorry, mate. All right.
Okay. I think there's a general consensus, Nick, that we need something. But I think what we probably need to do is be able to see what that something is, rather than having just one builder come in along and say, this is what we're going to put up, and we go ahead and give them 10 grand and that's it. I'd like to see I personally would like to see some sort of sympathetic design. And as David Roach says, and I've got my concerns that any building that's normally attached to grade 2 listed is also considered to be grade 2 listed, as conservation have told me many times for other buildings in the high street, like Barclays Bank, a bit out behind Barclays Bank, is considered to be grade 2 listed, even though it's not listed as grade 2 at the, what's it called, Heritage England these days, isn't it? Something like that.
Well, I can certainly go away and I can talk with the planning department and the conservation department in terms of getting us other quotes. I can get second quotes as long as they're going to be like for like. So somebody could come and put something up a lot cheaper. So
no. We shouldn't be using the same old builders all the time, Nick. Okay. Is there anything else on that, Nick, in your report?
No.
Any other comments from anyone before we move on?
Yeah, you're still a bit muted, John, to be fair.
Oh, I'm moving away from the microphone. You still there?
I can hear you better now, yeah.
That's weird. I don't know why that is. I'm using the same.
Well, a new one, John, but a decent one.
Yeah, yeah, it's probably the cheapskate.
Okay, item 8, shop local campaign. As you see in the agenda, to consider whether we want to allocate any money for the high street, as it mentioned. I don't know, anyone want to talk first? Oh, Tony first.
Yeah, sorry for jumping at the end, but yeah, it's definitely something I'm a bit passionate about. I have brought it up on a number of occasions. I would support, as Colin said, we've saved money. We haven't really been doing too much for the town. I know there's a lot been going on in the background, and John, Aaron, etc. Nick has been doing stuff, but as a town council as a whole, I think we do need to do a bit more. And what I would like to see is some more benches and things like that in the high street. It helps people socially distance. Virtually every time I walk down the high street, I see people buying food out of shops and just standing there eating it. And the benches are generally quite full. They could be used. The benches could be used, to stop vehicles, parking, etc. later in the evening when they're allowed through, and in the mornings. So I'm a big fan of some, street furniture, to help brighten up the high street. Yeah.
Colin, did you want to go?
Well, I mean, yeah, I agree entirely with Councillor Brown on that. I mean, basically, where we're coming from is that the decision to put the barriers into the high street was to create a safer place to enable pedestrians to socially distance. I personally think it wasn't handled particularly well. I think the discussions weren't had with the people who should have been consulted. And I do appreciate it's very easy to look back, but people were in a blooming hurry at the time, and they did the best they could. And it's interesting that having reviewed those decisions, we've come to the same conclusion. So I'm confident that if we had included more people, we would have done things much the same. But the barriers themselves are passive. The barriers are up, the traffic stops, and that's it. So what's actually going on to tell people, come back to the high street? What are we doing about asking people to shop locally? Definitely, I agree with Councillor Brown that benches makes a difference. I think that we can do more in terms of the kind of street entertainment that's going on. I think how we promote what people should be doing, because if we're not going to promote our own high street, we can't sit back and expect somebody else to. Yes, there are other bodies such as the businesses, West Suffolk's economic development, etc. But I think if we are prepared to sit at the table and some skin in the game and say that we're prepared to invest in our high street, what are you prepared to do? Then we can get ourselves a decent fighting fund. We're in this for the long haul. This is going to run right into Christmas, and we need to do the best we can to try and engage with businesses, make the most of the road closure. Let's not have people carping about it and blaming the barriers for the effect of COVID-19 in stopping people want to shop locally, and indeed not stand back and say, well, we've closed the road and what more do you want? Well, we need to actually take a lead and be seen to be trying to encourage people to come into the high street, to enjoy living in our town and using the facilities that are available. And hopefully, we may never be quite what it was before, but at least we can say we tried our best. And I think that there's a shop local campaign, using our staff to assist people, to make things a bit more personable would be a good start. And it's really just in terms of, you know, what councillors feel is a sensible budget. What I propose is that we try and engage with business and with West Suffolk, the markets team, etc., who want to do more for the market in town. And perhaps if we can have a couple of councillors nominated, then they sign off on expenditure by the town council, having listened to those discussions with our partners in trying to get the high street as best as it can be.
Okay, can you explain what you think the staff will be doing?
Well, we've in terms of staffing, Nick has laid out the sorts of stuff that goes on, that can go on with the Arts Centre. It's reduced capacity. It's 4 days a week rather than 6 days a week. Sandra Lenane is working hard on proposals to be able to reopen the zone, but it's going to be a tough gig to run a soft play centre under the government guidance, in terms of having to regularly clean down the soft play centre stuff there. And we're also we are working with user groups to open up the Leiston again. But you know, we actually, at the end of the day, we're not able at the moment to find enough work for the staff hours that we have available to us, and the furlough scheme is ending at the end of October, and all the staff costs are going to fall back on the local taxpayer. So how we deploy our staff is going to be quite crucial, and we really want to try and give value for money to the taxpayer by finding stuff for them to do. I haven't come up with the right name for it. I definitely do not want our staff to be the COVID-19 wardens telling somebody to form a group of 7 to move away and leave a group of 6 alone. But I think, you know, in terms of helping blue badge parking, in terms of helping people find, you know, where can I park? How do I get from A to B? When can I do this delivery? There's some human face. At the moment, the only human being involved in the barriers at the moment is a guy sat in a van. And you know, John and Aaron
Unbelievable.
have been turning out. And you know, how many times have you two had conversations with shopkeepers, with pedestrians, etc.? But you can't be there all the time. But we could have staff actually, you know, trying to be like as hosts, street hosts in some way, to try and, you know, as well as answering questions that the public may have, also, you know, putting up a gazebo so that our street entertainers dry, moving barriers around, doing what they need to do, and perhaps it'll give us some extra capacity to do more stuff in the high street, so it comes alive, rather, you know, and if people again get to that point where they think it's worth heading into Haverhill High Street.
Okay, thank you, Con. Councillor Lucarini.
Yeah, I've got a few concerns. I wouldn't want, like I say, I wouldn't want to see them become COVID wardens. I'm not really sure there's any need for anybody to man a barrier at all. The highways assurance guys say they don't see anybody during the day. People know that they can't go up the high street. They know they have to park in the car parks. I'm not sure what other kind of signposting is needed there. My only other fear as well is the high street is changing. In July, 28% of all retail sales, including grocery, were done on the internet. This is not going to change. I think we've got to face the fact at some point that our high street is dying. We've got the news now that Dorothy Perkins and Burton's is now up for rent again. They are potentially leaving the town. we're not going to reverse this. And is spending taxpayers' money a good idea? Are we just wasting their money?
I too have got concerns like the barrier at the high street. We all know it's scandalous. We're having to pay, well, somebody, not us, Suffolk County Council are paying £350 a day, the highways assurance. And it's not just this one town. You know, we're not unique. There's 49 towns across North of Suffolk and Essex that have got a similar scheme in place with road closures. Some look better than others. Some have got wide roads like Felixstowe where you can put alternative restrictions in. I am talking to through West Suffolk. Some of you may know I wrote to Matt Hancock about why it is we have to have somebody manning a barrier 7 days a week, where on a Saturday before COVID we had a barrier that nobody had to man. I have got an answer back from Highways again, but I'm going back to them again because I never answered that fundamental question. Because there would be a cost, you know, when you think about it, it's £350 a day, two grand a week. You could have built a gold barrier to go across the high street by now with nice electronic technology or whatever else. But that's one issue. The other issue is, you know, the road has now been closed for the best part of 3 months, I believe it is, something like that. As Aaron says, well, everyone knows about it. The only thing we do, we get complaints from 2 or 3 businesses because they're not willing to work with West Suffolk Council. Every suggestion that's made to them, they say, yeah, great, and then totally do everything in their power to reverse something. The vast majority of shops I personally have spoken to are supportive of the road closure, and I think that's not up for discussion now. I think that's, you know, that's a de facto thing. It's how we manage it. I agree totally with Tony about the benches. You know, we've been on for, well, years now about the state of benches anyway, regardless of whether we want new ones or not. The existing ones need totally revamping as well. More planters, if they don't get destroyed, of course. I'm looking at David Roach soon now. You know, if they don't get destroyed, that sort of thing. But more street furniture to stop people, as Colin said, parking on the pavement and things like that. That's what I would like to see. And I fully understand what Colin's saying about the staffing side of things. Is you know, if it does go on till April, as Nick was suggesting, is we have to look at what these staff can do when they're not doing other things. Maybe we get them out on painting or acting as community wardens, like Kevin is. And I would certainly support that, because there's a hell of a lot of places around town that need tarting up, forgetting about the town centre, I would agree. So I don't know what other people think. Anyone else has got any comments at all? Tony?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I would support, you know, what Colin and what a lot of what you and Aaron have said. But you know, if there's no one approaching the gates or something like that, it does seem that's something that an expense that we don't need to have. But everything we could do to help shopkeepers, we should be doing. You know, let's go around knocking on doors, explain this, you know, the temporary street license stuff, and you know, so that they can get chairs and whatever out onto the pavements. Let's, as a council, help the shopkeepers. They're gonna go through a terribly difficult time over the next few months. Lots of people have stayed at home, learned how to shop online. You know, just accelerating that trend that was already happening. But us as a town council, I'd just really like to see, you know, things like benches, planters, brighten it up, street entertainers. You know, let's go down fighting. Let's do what we can. But there is some evidence as well that I've heard that, you know, London, the office space in London has been sort of, and the streets of London are a lot less busy than they were. But I've heard that provincial town centres, i.e. Southend, etc., are actually busier because a lot of those people are not commuting and they're using their, you know, their local, you know, their towns. Let's try and grab some of that. So let's, you know, try and be as positive as we can. We don't want to waste money, but let's, you know, do what we can for the high street. Thank you.
I think we've just got to also remember there's a lot of businesses in the high street are not back at work.
Yeah.
I was talking to one business that supplies, well, you probably know, but he supplies food to factories on a Friday lunchtime, and his business is down 95%, has not come back up again. Look at AXA. I think there's about 25 people back in there
25
now.
people back, and they don't think anyone, well, they don't think the whole office will return until late next year. That's 250 people down.
People like Greg's are complaining. They're saying, oh, it's because of the road closure. Well, actually, one of your major customers is not there. But David Smith, anyway, sorry.
Yeah, just we're talking about temporary closure measures, aren't we, for COVID? Is that what we're talking about? Or are we talking about something more permanent?
No, this is only for COVID.
Okay, so Suffolk County Council are going to put this barrier across the high street, no matter what, are they?
There will be a barrier,
Yeah.
10 to 4.
Are they talking about taking away the person manning it then? Or are they?
I'm talking about taking away the person manning.
Yeah, but are they? I mean, if they're willing to pay £350 a day, I think the figure that Colleen banded about last week was £140 to have 2 of our people do it. Surely there'll be a saving for the Suffolk County Council, and it will be employing our own people as well.
Well, the cost will come onto our council. You can argue it's the taxpayers' money anyway.
Sorry, just be clear. The cost is £140 a day, but we're using staff that we're paying that anyway for them to sit at home. All we're doing is
If you're doing a project, Colin, you would be allocating the cost of that project, and this is the project for the high street. So the cost for it, when you're looking at the cost of it, is either £350 or £150 a day. It doesn't matter who pays it. But what I'm trying to do is get it down to 0 by not having anybody there and just having a barrier like we have on a Saturday, which works perfectly well. I mean, we haven't discussed, and obviously we are discussing it at a master plan meeting, disabled access. Because after 4 o'clock, before 10 o'clock, regardless of what the signs are on the high street, all those parking bays are taken by people who shouldn't be there, denying the blue badge holders the ability to go to shop. And equally, the shops need to be flexible and saying, actually, we'll stay open until 6 o'clock instead of opening at 5 o'clock to accommodate that. I don't mind.
That is, yeah, but that is your opinion. Yeah, okay, fair enough.
But it is my opinion, and everyone's got their own opinion. Sorry, Margaret.
I just think I'm a bit confused, John. Can I ask what the person is doing? If you've got a solid barrier, I don't actually, I have seen the person there, but I think I would really like some clarity on what exactly he's doing. And if there needs to be any monitoring, why don't we just turn the camera, because there's cameras on that corner, so that they face the barrier. So if there are problems, somebody can be called down to deal with it. I'm just at a total loss to understand, because the guy just seems to be asleep in his vehicle. So I'm not actually, it's a bit like when they have the traffic lights at the top of Ratting Road. I don't really understand. And I think maybe as a council, as a collective, we need to challenge it, because it's an awful waste of public money. And I'm honestly not sure what they're doing there.
It's public money, but it's a legal requirement that they have to monitor it because it's a temporary road closure. But what we're saying is if we changed it so it acted like we do on a Saturday, then nobody needs to monitor it. And as for the cameras, I wouldn't rely on any of the cameras. I'm having big arguments at the moment with West Suffolk about CCTV. I mean, I don't agree with anyone being there at all. I agree with totally. They're sitting there on their phones or whatever else. I agree totally. Aaron, sorry.
If Suffolk County Council are adamant that somebody has to be there, could we as a town council not offer our staff and invoice them the fact it's so much cheaper? I wonder if they'd actually almost subsidise one of our members of staff.
I understand there's a meeting very shortly, and a test case is whether or not Suffolk County Council are legally liable for this cost, or whether they can, whether the government themselves will be paying it. Sorry, Colin, did you want to say anything? Sorry.
I thought at one point it was West Suffolk that were having to pay the bill.
Never got that far, apparently.
Or whoever's having to pay it, is there an option to pay for our staff rather than Highways Assurance?
I should make it clear that I'm not suggesting for a moment that our staff get to sit in a van with their feet up playing on their phone.
No.
But all you really need is a presence in the high street, whether they're working with the shopkeepers or doing entertainment, etc. But if basically, I think the concern is, and the reason that there has to have somebody there at the moment is, and this may come as a shock to you, it's a possibility that somebody may just get out their car and move the barriers to one side and drive through to do a delivery or something like that, and not put the barriers back, and then everybody else will drive through. Now, I think that's fairly believable. That's exactly what would happen. And the ability to have somebody there to put it back again or actually intercept somebody trying to move it is the reason there's somebody sitting in a van. But it's not, I mean, to be fair, we've talked about staff, but it's also about shop local campaigns, about the work that Sarah Marsh might be doing to market Haverhill High Street, because that's what I can see. There's no marketing going on at all. We're not encouraging people to come back to the high street. We just hope they notice that there's no cars parked all over the place. And I think we could do a lot more for, say, the market and for some of the businesses in town if we spent some money on a shop local campaign, encouraging people to come back, tell them about what's happening in the high street.
Nick.
Colin stole my thunder a bit there about backing it up with marketing, really, because that's going to be half the battle. It's very nice to have things down there and it being nice down there, but no good if no one knows it's nice down there. When, you know, COVID's very much about stop doing this, stop doing that, don't do this, don't come in here. And the message should be come down and shop safely in Haverhill town centre. We should be turning it around to, rather than all of the stop doing things, don't go here, don't do that. It should be use this space because it is a safe space. We've made it into a safe space. And I think that's a really key message. And one of the other things that I'd be really keen to see is that the shops that are being gradually abandoned, they're not in a good way. So even if they are there and not being used, we should look to try and have those cleaned up so that when people do come down to the town centre, they're in a nice environment. Even if shops are boarded up and not there, they could be painted up nicely. They could have art put on the outside if we can do something like that, so that the environment that you create for them once they come down there is enhanced. And that's what I'd be keen for us to do, is enhancing that environment when they get down there. And we can do that by, you know, some imaginative suggestions.
All right, Aaron again, and we might need to consider extending time, by the way.
But just going off the back what Nick just said, I can't remember where it was, but I've been somewhere where they fit fake shop fronts to empty shop units. Really effective. So you're kind of walking down, there'd be a little bakery or kind of a butcher's kind of setup. It kind of helps lift things slightly.
Paul?
But before the Women's Road Race was cancelled this year, we discussed it, didn't we, about that empty shop fronts being filled with like signage and decorations and that. But that would be a good idea, though. A few shops like cleaned up a little bit, and then benches. It's just they've been like, for so long disgusting. I've been tempted myself to go down and repair them. That's not bad when you come down here. That's not bad. They're struggling in the high street. All these small shops are struggling. And at the moment, I know I go on the market is the best it's looked for 20 years. Food outlets on it, it's really come on leaps and bounds. It's the best I've ever seen it. And if things don't improve, a lot of them stall orders we've got from various other towns, if we don't sort things out very shortly, they'll be gone as well. Because I think the market at the moment will enhance the town centre as well. I really do.
Yeah, I agree totally about the market. I mean, Sharon's done a fantastic job.
Done a great job, yeah.
There's a couple of new ones coming this week.
Yeah, I've got 2 more coming.
Yeah. Sorry, David Roach first and then Tony Brown.
Yeah. Just very quickly, we've got a master plan, so we can talk about a lot of this anyway at master plan. Some of the stuff about marketing, that's what the bid group want to do. They want to employ a manager for doing that. So, you know, if they get that off the ground, then they'll bear the cost for it. But we do need to shout that it's a safe place. Regardless of we are where we are with the thing, it could have been done better, as Colin said, but hey ho, that's what we've got. We've had a chat last week about it. We just need to be encouraging people to come down and shop. And I think having that man sitting in the van is not attractive. It makes it look like it just makes it look like it's, you know, third world and
terrible.
So the sooner we can get rid of him, the better. And of course, the other thing is that, you know, if we use the CPE to police it like we were going to in the first place, that may well have fixed the problem. So we've got to do something. Let's park this. I think for tonight. It's 9 o'clock, and put it and see what the master plan group meeting does this week, and then bring it back. But I'm in favour of us doing something to shout how good it is to come out and shop.
Right. Tony Brown, and I think we're going to have to suspend standing orders.
Yeah.
John, I've got to go at 9, so
It is 9 o'clock now.
yeah.
Yeah, all I was going to quickly say was action this day. We need to get things done as soon as possible, not keep you know, talking about. I know council process takes time, but let's get something done as soon as possible, please.
I'm going to propose that I don't know what the budget looks like and where we take it from, and I'll look at Colin over this. We allocate £10,000 to promoting shop local, but that will not cover costs of things like benches and things like that. I think that has to come out of West Suffolk, I would argue, on that basis that we've got a big budget for that anyway. And fingers crossed that businesses will not necessarily put the same amount of money, but maybe put the same amount of effort in to help themselves. And also things like, you know, which was mentioned about the pavement trading, all that sort of stuff. I don't think there's been any, as far as I know, businesses in town have applied for the licence. Other than one up Queen Street that's done it through the planning process.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to amend your proposal and to actually include benches and street furniture, because if we start to talk to West Suffolk Council about, we'll still be talking about it in another year. That money that they've got allocated to Haverhill has been sitting there for years and years. We've been trying to get that stuff spent on the town, and it's been proven a huge barrier. So to be fair, I think that we need to do it. It's not going to cost an awful lot of money. If we can get it back from West Suffolk, that'd be great, but I think we need to do it, as I say, now, and I think that we should include the benches and the street furniture.
Definitely.
So I'd like to amend that proposal.
That will not go very far if we start including all that. That's my opinion.
Yeah, it's got to earn it.
Let councillors vote on it.
Yeah. Well, it depends if,
Was that a full proposal, Tony? Second.
Yeah, so I need a seconder for that.
I'll second it.
Hang on a minute, because you had John did a proposal, Tony did an amendment, so you've got to vote on the amendment first.
I need a second first.
I'll second Tony's then.
Right, okay.
But can I just ask, I was cut off and I didn't hear the proposal at all. Could you repeat it, please?
I propose, sorry, Joe, I've gone static on me. I propose 10 grand that we allocate from some budget or other, that we allow for shop local on the hope that other businesses and things will not necessarily put a hand in their pocket, but perhaps help us out a bit. And then I specifically excluded not to pay for benches because West Suffolk's got a lot of money in reserves dedicated to the public realm. But Tony then amended that, seconded by David Roach, to include benches on, with a hope, I think, that he probably says, is we can try and get the money back.
I think it was just street furniture in general rather than just benches. It was
Street furniture generally, yeah. But my only concern is how much street furniture will cost. But anyway, that's another matter. But that what the proposal is. If you heard that right, Joe, because I can't see you're not moving. Oh, you are now. Sorry.
Yeah, I did. Thank you. Thank you. Dropping in and out.
Yeah, sorry. Has anyone got any other thoughts on that before we go for the vote on that?
No, crack on.
We also probably need to sort out who is going to do anything. But should we vote on the 10,000 to start with? All those in favour, based on including street furniture? I'll vote for that as well now. Sorry.
Oh, Johnny boy.
Because on the basis I might be able to get the money back. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
And then we'll have to decide. I don't know whether we want to do that now. Oh, Laura's back. Did you want to speak, Laura, or are you? Sorry, you're muted.
Yeah, I was voting.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Okay, I have to sort out who. I would think who. I don't know who's gonna who. I presume we need some businesses involved in this as well, but I'd be very reluctant to go for the usual crowd. You know what I mean?
Is it something we could put through master plan, John, or not? Or would you want to do it separately?
I would suggest that you could do that through the master plan, but if you want to agree which councillors from the town council would be on any group that were doing that, that might be useful. Otherwise, you could just leave it that there already is representation on the master plan group from the town council.
Yeah, look, I'm glad to leave it to Martin. Everyone's gone quiet.
Oh, well, we were just listening to Paul have a drink.
Oh, right.
It's only right, Pete. I've got to drive in half hour. I've got to drive in half hour.
Yeah, I'm happy with master plan. I've got to go, chap. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, we've got to. I know we're very near the end, but we'll have to. I guess we ought to suspend standing orders, Colin. I'll propose we suspend standing orders. Any seconders? Tony, seconder. All in favour, please show. Okay, make that formality out of the way. Well, should we move on quickly on to item 9, Remembrance Day events? Nick, did you want to talk? I mean, I can talk about BJ Day. Obviously, I was heavily involved in that.
Yeah, quickly, remembrance events really. We had a meeting yesterday just to look at remembrance events. They're being curtailed most likely all over the country. As traditionally, we have a parade down the high street, which is all the uniformed groups in town parading through the high street down to the cemetery and back again. Because of social distancing and government restrictions, we wouldn't be able to have that level of parade. So the plans are at the moment, the Royal British Legion are looking to have their standards march from the Arts Centre to the War Memorial. That will be unescorted and will not require any sort of closure. At the War Memorial, there will be a limited ceremony, which will be limited to invited organisations, and that event will be streamed. So we will have the organisations that traditionally lay wreaths and civic representatives, plus the Royal British Legion addresses that go on. And we're talking with the priests at the two churches, main churches in town. And then on the Remembrance Day itself, the Royal British Legion will have their traditional event in town where they have a bugler outside the church. So it's curtailing and limiting the actual ceremony, or sorry, commemoration and service to an invited only audience. We would use town council staff there just to let people know at the cemetery itself that it would be closed for a short period of time, but they'd be welcome to go and pay their own respects should they wish to, outside of the times when the COVID safe event which we would put on would be taking place. That is the plan. That will be subject to any government guidance, any other Royal British Legion announcements, which we gather there is going to be one within the next few days. and also looking at what other places are doing that could be added to if necessary.
Sorry, Colin?
I just wondered whether the working party had thought about how they're going to let groups know about the wreath laying, so that all groups that would wish to lay a wreath get a chance to. Otherwise, it would just be the usual suspects, which may be all that's necessary, but there may be other groups that would want to lay a wreath. And we just, if we don't put some form of general invitation out, there's a danger that we'll appear to have not given them the opportunity. So I think it might be useful to somehow, obviously you're going to publicise it anyway, but perhaps in good time, just say, if there are groups wishing to lay a wreath, they need to let you know.
Yeah, we do. We've got access to all of the groups that have laid wreaths in the past. Is what we're working on at the current time, and there will be the discussion will be that there is an invitation to veterans to attend as well, but we would have to put those into suitably sized groups. But yeah, if to talk about the publicity and the communications is very much about how it will be a closed event, but I take your point is that if there are any groups wishing to lay wreaths, then we can make sure that we include them as long as we're aware of who they are in advance of the day.
Definitely, because obviously we can't have the thousands of people turn up or lie in the street, but there's undoubtedly going to be some groups who turn up in order to pay their respects and would be feeling really quite cut out because they would normally have if they're given the opportunity to lay something, then at least there's something extra they can do instead.
Yeah, we did discuss that. Did you want to say something, Paul, or was that no? Did you have your hand up or not? No. Okay. In terms of VJ's side of things, some of this I've already probably said. I went over to Ipswich the week before VJ Day to lay a wreath on behalf of Ernie Brett, our 101-year-old veteran who's currently in a care home here, on behalf of his, I think it was platoon commander, wasn't it, Basil Broom, second Lieutenant Basil Broom. Right before VJ Day, we raised the flag on the market square. We'd had various things online during the previous week, which the Family History Society had done their usual brilliant stuff, coming up with data. We did a composite roll call of all those who were out in the Far East up to VJ Day, including the 22 who didn't come back. That was done. That was read out by various people who were relatives of some of those people like Christopher Gertie. That went down well. Then actually on VJ Day, we had a very short ceremony at the War Memorial, which we live streamed to YouTube quite successfully, and the weather stayed good for us as well. And I think there was only about 4 or 5 of us there. We laid wreaths and everything. Then the following week, although this has nothing to do with Town Council, I filmed Charmian and Brian talking about some of the veterans who's commemorated on the graves in the cemetery. And I've just finished editing it the day before yesterday with a roll call on the end. And if you're interested, it's on the Suffolk Family History website to look at. Thank you. Any questions? Tony?
Yeah, just one thing. I don't know if Nick mentioned this. I may have missed it. My brain's getting a little bit foggy, but you and Aaron are going to live stream the whole of Remembrance Parade and try and get it out to everyone on Facebook. So that it is a town event, so people will be able to participate and see exactly what's going on. And VJ Day John and Aaron done a fantastic job with all the technical staff at getting that out to people that wanted to watch it. So hopefully that was a good pattern for what's going to happen on Remembrance Day. So we're hoping that plenty of people do participate. It's a shame that we can't do a normal event, but we are where we are, unfortunately.
Okay. Any other comments? No. I just lost it. Right. Sorry. Thank you very much. Okay. Quickly on date of next meeting is Tuesday, 10th of November. So put that in your diaries if you haven't already got it. And I shall declare the meeting closed at 21:16.
Thank you.
Appreciate all your help as usual. I don't know who we just lost. Did you want to stop recording?
Councillor Mason.
Flash of light.
Councillor Mason is the person who lost.
Yeah.